the amount of chemicals that are in everything now, and you say about, obviously they created a lot of these man-made illnesses because a lot of them are made because of like what's been put into our food, our water, our air, clothes, cosmetics, every facet of life pretty much. We're just getting hit by chemicals like the minute we wake up. Um, and it's quite mind-blowing really, but like because it's all been made, everything's been made convenient, people just don't have that awareness, which is obviously the key word, is awareness, isn't it? And awareness of your own bodily health and what you're putting in it and stuff like that. And I always say to people, what makes me laugh nowadays is that most people pay more attention to the energy rating of their washing machine than they do what they put into their actual body. um,
That's right. So here's AJ, here's an exercise that anyone can do to help motivate some of these changes with food, because food is super super important, and I always um, educate about eating whole food, which means that when you buy it, it looks the same way it looked in nature,
mm,
right? So if you can go to a tree and pick an apple off of it, and then you see that same apple, not applesauce, but the apple in the supermarket, that's a whole food. And if you stick to that, you're going to improve your health massively. But a way to transition to that is just to start reading labels, but read them in an informed way. So look at the label, and if the one of the ingredients is apples, that is okay if they're organic, of course. Or if the ingredient is kidney beans, that's okay. Or if it's sea salt, that's okay. But if it's sodium erythrobromate, you're like, what the heck is that? That's not a food. So then go to the internet and search, toxicity of sodium erythrobate, and see what comes up and learn. So do that for every single ingredient on a food that you're before you eat it. I
mm,
did this exercise with my children because they had been eating these organic version of Pringles, the potato, a popular
yeah.
crisp in the United States. Okay, I'll use the British word, and they were pretty addicted to this stuff. Like they wanted it all the time, and I was really concerned about it, and so I just sat down with them. I'm like, let's read the ingredients label, and I went, by the way, and bought some other crisps that were just uh, cooked in avocado oil, and the only ingredients were potatoes, avocado oil, and sea salt. And we read the ingredient label of the other one, and I, explained what the things were. And at the end, my daughter took the container from me and put it right in the trash. And they're both like, we're never eating these again.
Mm,
So once you have the information, even in a child, it can be very, very powerful, because people don't want to make themselves sick in general. And even when they're addicted to some of those chemicals, like flavor enhancers, for example, they can still overcome it if they put their mind to it and realize the importance of it.
yeah, absolutely. And it's yeah, it's crazy. Even as like a kid, I was always curious, like what's in food, and always knew. Like I was always like turned off from cake and fizzy drinks, just never liked them as a kid. My mum used to buy birthday cake, just for everybody else. So which is always quite funny. But again, if you don't have that it's the same as anything. You don't know what you don't know, and because of like the generations, how they've just kind of gone from one to the next. Like the generations now have so little to think about because everything's been made convenient for them and nice and tasty. But you only have to have a look at a supermarket bread, for example. Like the amount of ingredients that are in a loaf of bread now is just like mind-boggling compared to like 20 years ago. But then 20 years ago, it was like, what was it, 1 in 100, 1 in 500 or something would get cancer. Now we're being told it's 1 in 2. And as as I'd imagine both of us are saying a lot, is well, what's the human body hasn't changed. What's changed for somebody to get, 1 in 2 people to get cancer?
Yeah, it defies their own logic, because even if you look at it, they always look at it from an evolutionary perspective, right? And it's supposed to be that we live longer and are more vibrant over time, not
Mm,
that suddenly, nature attacks us, with new diseases, or our development becomes faulty, or our bodies. I mean, there is this pervasive false view in mainstream medicine that our bodies are faulty. And we need modern medicines to correct our
Yeah.
bodies. Like, for example, look at things like thyroid disease, right? We say that people have hypothyroidism. It's one of the most frequently diagnosed conditions. The drug Synthroid, which is a man-made synthetic version of thyroid hormone, is one of the top-selling drugs.
Mm.
Now, why would our bodies just suddenly turn off one of their most important glands? And it's not because it's broken. It's it's for a reason. It's a response to something, and the body needs to correct it. And that's part of the correction and the healing process. But we think, oh, that's your body's broken. Thank God for modern medicine because we can give a synthetic chemical that replaces the body's function,
Yeah.
right? And that's just not accurate to what's happening. Like our bodies are don't make mistakes. They only react to changes in the environment or to insults. And when we experience these problems, it's giving us information that we need to do something different because what we've been doing is resulting in our bodies not able to function optimally.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're
And
constantly doing everything half-assed almost without even realizing, aren't we? Because of basically everything, or how intoxicated our bodies are becoming and minds.
yes, yeah, if you're completely unaware of that and just follow the modern lifestyle, you're just going to get worse and worse. And so what we see is aging process, for example, right, is that our bodies, because they make mistakes, they get wear and tear and they just fall apart over time, like planned obsolescence, like the way they build machines these days, not the way they used to build them where they'd last forever practically.
Mm.
Um, what's really happening is that over time, you're accumulating more and more of these poisons in your body. And they are destroying parts of your body, and those parts of your body can't function as well anymore. But that's not the way nature intended it. Nature intended that, your body would be completely functional until the very end when it was the end of your life. And then, you would go basically from functioning to death, to passing on. And we can see real life examples of cultures that have not succumbed to the modern lifestyle. And we can see, centenarians who are living, like when we think of in our nations, someone in their 90s, we picture someone in a nursing home or a care home, with wearing diapers and not knowing their name and taking 20 medicines. And that is like the most common experience.
Mm.
But that's not the way nature intended it. If we look in, for example, Okinawa, right, which we know is an island. It's part of Japan, but it's kind of far away from the rest of Japan, and it's mostly farming lifestyle. But they are not totally indoctrinated, or at least the current older generation, and they have many people who live beyond 100. But they are not debilitated. They're not in nursing homes or care homes. In fact, some of them live independently. They do everything for themselves. They cook and
Mm.
clean. They're productive. At 100 years old. And this is the way that we can be
Mm.
if we wake up to some of these things and start taking steps to, one, mitigate as much as possible our exposure to these poisons, and then, help our body get rid of these things. It wants to do that desperately, right? But when you keep putting so many poisons in, your body has to do damage control. It can't do the healing part. So you have to kind of help jumpstart it into the healing phase by, stop burdening it with so many poisons. And then you can do some things to help signal your body that, okay, now you're cooperating. And you're going to allow your body to use its resources to heal.
Mm.
And, it's amazing that people who do this, they come out on the other end as if they went back in time.
Mm.
to a younger age because the body is just capable of such amazing renewal.
Yeah, well, yeah, it truly, truly is. And it's interesting actually because I was really reading into the germ theory, terrain theory, like before this whole hoax even started. And I guess one of the biggest hoaxes we've ever experienced and probably will in our lifetimes is, being told that we can't heal ourselves, that we can only have poison to fix it ourselves.
That's
And
right.
yeah, and again, that's a generational thing that's been brought up and brought up and brought up. But I guess in hindsight, I know we've all been through a lot of crap over the last like 3 years, and just constant governmental lies and corruption, and at the highest level, which has ruined a lot of people's lives. But I guess in this 3 year period, it's actually woken a lot of people up to germ theory, and it is actually like a load of nonsense.
Absolutely. And, I'm glad you pointed out the difficulty about that the body is self-healing, but I want to remind everyone that you've actually witnessed this yourself in your lifetime, your own body, because you've gotten a cut before.
Hmm.
And, at least there might be one time when you didn't put some pharmaceutical on it. You just, basically washed it off, and then magically you saw over the next days that it just completely healed, and
Yeah.
there was no evidence that there was ever a cut there
Mm. It's like a
in the
paper
first
cut, isn't
place,
it? You
right?
get you get a paper cut, and you're like, oh crap, just yeah,
Yes,
stops
right.
bleeding. And what's your body doing? It's healing itself straight away.
Exactly. So if it can do that, then you must understand that any insult that happens anywhere in your body's doing that.
Mm.
And when those pharmaceuticals get in the way, they shut that down, right? Often.
Mm.
And many people end up with chronic injuries because of that, right? Like I've seen many injured workers through in the workers' compensation system that they got an injury and it might not have even been a very severe injury, right? Like there might not have even been a broken bone or anything like that, but they never healed. The body couldn't complete the healing process because all of the pharmaceuticals and all of the poisons in their lifestyle
Mm.
essentially took the body's resources away from that. And the body was so overwhelmed that it just deposited those things there instead of healthy collagen and other materials to rebuild that area.
Mm.
So we have to, realize that it's already in our body, and we just have to stop getting in the way of it to allow that process to occur.
And you mentioned things like collagen. Other than collagen, is there any particular sort of like supplements and things that you would suggest for people, other than obviously healthy, nutritious whole foods?
Right. Well, I really, in general, don't recommend supplements at all because one thing is that many supplements are just pharmaceuticals in disguise. They're
Hmm.
produced by the
Yeah.
pharmaceutical industry. Also, if you go back and look at the science of how they even discovered some of these things, it's not even clear. Like, for example, with vitamin C. Now, in order to get vitamin C from a food that it's said to be in, you have to do several steps of chemical reactions, precipitations, solvent extractions, and such before you get a white powder that's called vitamin C. So, if you're doing all of that stuff to it, how do you know that that powder in its form as a powder was actually in the lemon to begin with?
Mm.
So if you take a pill with that chemical, it's not the way nature intended you to get that. So all the things that you would need to be healthy, you can get from foods. The only thing I'm aware of that's not available in modern food source, unless you pay attention to grow your own food and fortify the soil appropriately, is trace minerals. And these are, the metals that we need in very tiny amounts,
Mm.
but they're super important, like things like molybdenum, manganese, zinc, copper. There are maybe about 50 that we use in our body and for vital functions, including for detox, like superoxide dismutase, for example, one of our enzymes that is an antioxidant, a powerful one, it requires some of these metals to work. I'm blanking on exactly which ones. But because of the way food is grown in one place and then consumed in a totally different area, the minerals that were originally in that soil that got into the food are taken away from that soil. And after 2 growing seasons, there's no minerals, basically. None of those minerals.
Mm.
Now they add nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in fertilizer, but they don't add all the other minerals to grow the plants. They just do the bare minimum. So you have to have some form of mineral supplement, and that's why, the main or the first product I ever sold was Shilajit, which is a natural form of those minerals from decomposed plants that animals often lick up, and that's how we actually find the deposits of that material, and that contains just about all 50 of those minerals. But aside from that, I think you should just eat a healthy diet, and which we can talk about the differences of vegan, vegetarian, carnivore, omnivore, all of these things. But the biggest difference is if you just stop eating stuff that's not food and just stick to the whole foods, nothing in a package unless it has one ingredient or perhaps one ingredient plus sea salt, and get everything fresh.
Mm.
Get vegetables, get fruits, get meats, and then prepare them at home. And you'll most likely, if you eat a variety of foods, or if you eat enough, animal products, you'll get all of the nutrients that you need from nature. And you do need to get out into nature and out into the sun, and you do need to get physical movement, and you do need to have some kind of spiritual or contemplation practice, right? All of these things have to go together to have optimal health. But in terms of nutrition, I really don't think there's a need for supplementation whatsoever.